I just like the sound of it.
A lot of this stuff has already been just temporary. There are more improvements that were underway and planned. Nobody expected another storm of this magnitude to come 2 years later because
6 inches of rain fell between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. yesterday. Roughly, that's the equivalent of a whole month of rain normally.
As I said, they're only supposed to happen every 1,000 years. 1,000 years. 1,000 years.
Unfortunately, with that amount of rain comes tremendous force of water and tremendous difficulties in Ellicott City, causing tremendous damage.
Historic Ellicott City, Maryland is in ruins. A weekend storm dumped 6 inches of rain in less than 2 hours. People formed human chains to rescue drivers who were trapped. Earl Barnett is there.
The devastation was everywhere. 200 buildings damaged, gaping holes in storefronts, foundations wiped away, cars stacked on top of each other. The Saturday night downpour swelled the nearby river 14 feet in 90 minutes. The floodwaters rushed down Ellicott City's main street, pushing 170 cars downstream. A 35-year-old Pennsylvania woman and a 38-year-old man from Maryland died after they got swept away by the waters.
I know that everyone in here, those of you who have been affected by this devastating tragedy,
as I said, they're only supposed to happen every 1,000 years.
The 1,000-year flood they're calling it from Ellicott City. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience with us. We're working the hard as we possibly can to provide you with relief, to make sure that everything is safe for everyone. I couldn't be prouder to be a member of the Howard County community than to know that the people of Ellicott City not only cared about themselves and their residents, they cared about strangers. They cared about anybody who had faced that terrible, terrible situation between the human chain and through about folks at the rumor mill and everybody else. What you have done has been inspiration not only just to Howard County, not only just to the United States, but to the whole world. So I want to congratulate and thank the people of Ellicott City. Now, just to give you some ideas of some things that have happened, also I want to make sure there's no way we can make this like a town hall. We have brought state agencies, federal agencies, county agencies here, and they have tables set up to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to go ask specific questions that helps them specifically. But I wanted to let you know, I know there's a lot of people here, and we're not probably going to get through everybody's questions tonight.
It's from my mind. It's from my mind.
Global warming is always a hotly contested, pun intended, issue that generates widespread debate. In the scientific community, though, there is a strong consensus that global surface temperatures have indeed increased in recent decades and that the trend is caused by us, our emissions of greenhouse gases. But only about half of Americans believe the scientific consensus, that only about half of Americans believe that global warming is caused by human activity. Many think it is from natural patterns or doesn't exist at all. A fascinating article in New York Magazine titled "The Uninhabitable Earth" describes the apocalyptic impacts of climate change and how climate change will render the Earth, well, uninhabitable by the end of the century. With me now is the author of that article, David Wallace Wells, deputy editor for New York Magazine and author of the cover article. Take me back to the beginning. You get an assignment or you're pitching this?
I pitched it. Sort of an amateur follower of the climate news, but following it pretty closely, read the UN's IPCC reports, which are sort of the state of the art of what we know about climate change. And it struck me that a lot of what was baked into that research was much scarier than was being talked about in the mainstream media and among anyone except like the very well-informed scientists. So I set about figuring out what those worst case scenarios would look like if they came to pass. I took the UN's own guideline about what was likely to happen in terms of temperature given no emissions reduction, which is a big if. That's almost certainly not going to happen. We surely will take action of some kind. But I wanted to see what would happen if we didn't. And I made a tour, spoke to a couple...
We being humanity on the planet at large.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I spoke to a couple dozen scientists, read maybe a couple hundred scientific papers, focused on the question of if we get to 6 degrees of Celsius of warming or 8 degrees of Celsius warming, what will the planet look like?
It's often said that we reach a tipping point of survivability at 2 degrees of Celsius warming, and now you're talking about 6 if we do nothing. Even if we did what the countries at the Paris Accords have laid out, we would still blow past 2 degrees of warming. We're on a course for...
One. Oh my God. Ma'am, what's going on? We are at Dean Hollow in Old Ellicott City on Frederick Road. The water is above the doors coming in the building. We need somebody to come in. What's your address? What's our address? Is it 8059? Yes. Okay, are you able to go to a higher level of the building?
A lot of this stuff has already been just temporary. There are more improvements that were underway and planned. Nobody expected another storm of this magnitude to come 2 years later because, as I said, they're only supposed to happen every 1,000 years.
Okay, we're going to have them out there, okay? Thank you very much. The building is buckling. There's water on the inside. And we can feel the ceiling crumbling a little bit, the stuff on the ceiling. Is there any way you guys can get out of the building so that you can get somewhere safe if you think the building is in jeopardy?
That we're seeing homes and businesses devastated. WMAR 2 News' Megan Knight is live in the city this morning. Megan, you grew up in Ellicott City. What's it looking like there this morning?
Well, it's funny, Christian, we were just talking, my photographer Eric and I, because we were down here 2 years ago covering this very same story. We were just noticing some of the differences being down here. We're right off Ellicott Mills Drive, right near Main Street. So the first big thing that we noticed is that a huge chunk of Ellicott Mills Drive right up next to Main Street is missing. That's why we are so far back. 2 years ago, we were able to go all the way up there. You know, there's the Welcome to Historic Ellicott City sign that greets you as you're going down the hill there. But obviously, we're being kept way far back because that's a huge safety hazard. And then as Eric pans over to your left there, the other thing that we've noticed is Lot F. This is right behind the wine bin, is just a complete mess. It is full of mud and debris. You can see those cars, some of that mud coming right up until their tires.
It's on my mind. It's on my mind.
Report out social vulnerability in Central Europe early 1700s. How the climate's going to shift from today's conditions. Cold and wet, wet and wet in different parts of the year. Looking back, Switzerland and the Czech Republic area. So you can see historically, bad harvest, how much will it increase? Taking a look at Romania, orchard conditions there. Snows in Western Europe for the next 10 days. And looking at French vineyard production, I'm pegging these areas right here, decreased yields this year. Zombies, we see them in Hollywood, especially for the last 5 years, but we also see them in the 1300s, 1700s, 1600s. Lithographs showing, is Hollywood pre-programming your mind to get ready to see all of these people that are emaciated because food production is going to decline globally? South Africa going offline in the West, still cool there. North America, these three areas, especially Alberta, cold returning to the U.S. and Canada next week. Northern central China going offline. Australian production starting to go offline for wheat due to jet streams shifting. Talking about moving crop growing zones south 400 to 600 miles. This will be corn and wheat that'll need to shift south as the grand solar minimum intensifies. We have records of what happened before, 320 kilometers south push. And here we are, Kansas wheat crop, 44%, very poor condition, worst since 1986. Cold damage they're still not even able to report on. Only 3% of the spring wheat planted. That is so far behind the average that it's not even on the radar, really. Corn planting at a snail's pace. Got droughts in Oklahoma, exceptional to severe. And now these crop losses are in play from the grand solar minimum. We really need to start talking about this in our news feeds and media globally. Timeline moving forward for the next 4 years. And the losses are just going to continue from this point forward. U.S. Farm Planting Report, struggling to survive. This is how they're phrasing it for Kansas and Oklahoma, among other areas. First sentence there, 2018 is pushing wheat's limit, meaning it is so stressed from the drought and the cold. And now they're just starting to see injury symptoms such as leaf tip burning and stalks breaking due to actual complete freeze and then thawing. They even talk about how it's still too early for most farmers to depict or show the extent of the damage in the recent freezes in Oklahoma.